How does an idea transform into success? Half of all businesses only survive 5 years. When a business reaches 50 years, it's more than a milestone, it's a statement. It says people here are industry leaders, thinkers, doers, and have pride in everything they do. When Jim Danella purchased the Norristown-based Thomas W. Faulkner, a utility construction company, in 1972, he wanted to build, repair, create, to make decisions that would positively impact his employees, families, and communities. He wanted to dream big dreams and turn them into vibrant solutions. From the high point of Danella's 50-year anniversary, I'll take you on this journey of a monumental man who inspired the world to build better, serve better, and be better. Pride in everything we do is not just a slogan, it's a way of life for Danella Companies. Even in its most humble of beginnings, Jim Danella founded an organization with professionalism, attention to detail, and most of all, vision. That vision began with Jim Danella's father, Carmen, who operated a local trucking business. Jim would spend nearly every day of his early life working in his shop.
I started sweeping floors in the garage. At a young age, my father would take me to work. Then I moved into what I thought was a big deal. I became a grease monkey. I went into my father's trucking business, worked my way up from a mechanic, and started dispatching when I was still going to Villanova.
While Jim learned from the ground up, his dad also brought him to sales meetings. In those moments, it became clear to Jim that success couldn't happen without a team, from mechanic to executive.
Just watching him, and he took me around, and I just followed him on business calls and went to trucking, and I just learned from him.
But even with his father's example, 5 decades of success didn't happen overnight for Jim Danella. When Jim bought his first business, success seemed completely out of reach. In 1972, Jim purchased Thomas W. Faulkner. What he didn't know was that Mr. Faulkner had originally promised the company to the Faulkner leadership team. This was not a friendly transition.
It was on a Friday afternoon. We made settlement. It was a very stressful day back and forth in negotiating the final terms. At 4:30, we went into where Mr. Faulkner's offices were, and we announced that we were the new owners. And right after that, there was a big commotion in the office, and the general superintendent, the head bookkeeper, the dispatcher, the estimator, all walked out. I didn't know anything about construction. I had not a clue who was good, who was bad. All I knew is I was scared to death in a business that I didn't know anything about.
Of all the people who walked out that first day, only 2 didn't. One was Gina Pierce, the other was Price Jackson.
Well, I met him the first day they come into the office, and they asked me if I could help them out with a few things. And I said, well, I'll get the board ready for you in the morning, and we'll get the men out of the yard. And I don't think Jim knew what the board was. The board was where we tallied up everybody and got them in their trucks. The people that were working at Faulkner had gone, and they said, oh, these 2 little guys aren't going to make it. But it worked, and you see where Jim is now.
From that moment of fear, his first moment, Jim decided to use the motivation to build a company that followed through on its word and always took care of its employees.
I started here January of 1985 and just have grown up here. It was a small office then. We were in the old building, and I walked in to the computer center, and all the equipment was set up on a wooden table that Uncle Renato had built. And it was propped up with just wooden pegs, and we stood there and worked on these terminals.
Well, when I joined back in '87, this company was in a very aggressive growth mode. And Jim gets into so many different businesses and opportunities that he pretty much gives you the opportunity to run your own business and really instills entrepreneurial skills in you.
I started with Jim in May of 1984. He gave me a stack of invoices, at least 6 inches high, repair bills for a budding rental fleet that he had out. At that time, we had a couple of customers, 3 customers maybe. And it took me 2 weeks to go through that pile, calling vendors and whatnot. And I said, Jim, I'm done with the pile. I've all taken care of. He said, great. I've got something else for you to do. Now we make the fleet grow. And grow they did. Danella Companies began as a small construction company. But with Jim's ingenuity and commitment, it quickly expanded, and with it, so did Jim's vision.
If one of our customers said, can you deliver mail? I can deliver mail. We delivered mail.
Really?
We delivered mail. We cleaned telephone booths. Anything at all that we could do, I decided to do.
Danella broadened its reach with drive and expertise from Joe Hempel in Florida, Price Jackson in Ohio, and Peter Mazzari in New York to become industry leaders in steam, telecommunication, storm restoration, gas work, electric, water, rail construction, and equipment rentals. From Cape Canaveral in Florida to Ground Zero in New York City, Danella Companies has been building and laying the groundwork for our country for 50 years.
So Jim is the classic entrepreneur, such as if you were going to graduate school, Harvard, Wharton, you would hear about the Gateses and the Bezos. Jim was that entrepreneur 30, 40 years ago. When I started in '87, Danella was, at that time, a medium-sized business, specializing in the communications field. It's the Bell organization, AT&T, Pico, and the utilities such as that. And Jim began to branch out, New York to Ohio to Florida, Colorado, Arizona, as the opportunities presented themselves.
Obviously, Verizon has been my biggest client. Danella Line Services' biggest client. I mean, that's what Jim started out with, working Bell PA, and obviously Bell PA became Bell Atlantic, and then Bell Atlantic became Verizon. And just recently now with Verizon's expansion throughout the country, with the One Fiber and 5G, obviously I think that's been a big plus in increasing our volume just recently, and it's only going to continue to grow.
My name is Joseph Hempel. I've been with Jim for, well, it was too long to count, but I think it was 43 years. So I came to Florida and met the gentleman out of Jacksonville. I never saw so many excavators, cranes, building, construction, digging going on in my entire life. So I called Jim. I said, Jim, we got to be in Florida. That's all there is to it. I said, the construction down here is unbelievable. I said, this is where we need to be. And I said, at that point in time, I said, if you don't want to be here, I said, I quit and I'm coming to Florida. Which I was pretty lucky that he didn't fire me right on the spot, I guess. But he took it to heart. And the next thing you know, we were doing a contract for Southern Bell. After that, it continued on.
My name is Tom Shinsky. I am the Division Vice President for the Florida Corporation. Danella took over the contract for the burying telephone cable for AT&T in Fort Pierce in 1987, and that is when I started. I was young, I was coming into this, and I met Jim, and I was a little nervous, and I remember going to meeting him at the Holiday Inn in Fort Pierce. Very seldom ever wore ties, but I put on, I remember, a snap-on tie that I had, because at that point I didn't know how to tie a tie. As young, worked out in the field digging ditches. So he came down, and I knew as the owner of the company and that he'd build it from backhoe in a dump truck. And so I met Mr. Danella at the Holiday Inn, and I was impressed that, he was engaging. He was very interested in what I had to say and my take on what it would take to grow the business in Fort Pierce, to grow the business with AT&T and what I had to say. And so I found that very refreshing, very relieving.
I was taking karate, taekwondo lessons, as was Jim. As I said, I was president of the Black Belt Club, though, after a few years. And Jim said, Paul, I'd like to talk to you about coming to work for me. And he asked once, twice, thrice, and I said, okay, eventually. And I went down and met him, and it sounded interesting. We started big in the Northeast, especially Conrail at that time. Conrail was our primary customer. They were a big railroad at one time. Conrail was a major customer. We dealt with New Jersey Transit, Amtrak, SEPTA a little bit. And we just grew and tried to expand geographically and expand our list of contacts around the country. And we were able to grow. We were very fortunate.
I'm Craig Adams. I'm the retired CEO of PECO Energy, which is Philadelphia's largest utility. Well, I've known Jim Danella for, I guess, 25, maybe closer to 30 years. PECO Energy and Danella did business together for many, many years. And you can't do business with Jim without getting to know him and him getting to know you. And so it was a great ride. Well, the big challenge for any utility or their business partners is adapting to the change. This industry has changed so much in the last 30 years. I mean, I've been kind of at the pinnacle of that change. And it's a 100-year-old industry that over the last 20 years has just gone through a metamorphosis.
Back in 1988, where rentals was trotting along pretty good, but, we went up to Toronto and did our first trade show, and specifically for the rental division, and the business just took off after that. But as we started to expand and market ourselves a lot better, we pretty much are doing business throughout the country right now, and we did some business up in Canada, and we did some business in Mexico also. We started a partnership with Vilsmeyer Company and started a first auction back then. It became a quality auction. It became an auction that used to have 200 or 300 pieces in it to 12 or 1,300 pieces in it. We had a good business partnership with J.J. Kane that has run it for probably the last 25 years. If you look at the aerial photos of that auction yard, it's pretty impressive.
Now, nobody should think that it was all peaches and cream and happiness. There's a lot of sweat, long hours, some disagreements along the way, but Jim kept the team moving forward to achieve the vision.
Most private businesses are lucky to last 5 years. Jim took a small business and grew it into a mega business. And for 50 years, he's been doing the same thing, and he was always there. Early in the morning, late at night, whenever, he was there. And that's why the business was so successful. He's a successful people person and a successful entrepreneur. He just has that drive that big entrepreneurs end up having. He probably has one of the largest private companies in the United States. And he doesn't talk about it. He doesn't brag about it. Most people don't even know it. But he certainly has done a phenomenal job.
I met Jim a couple years ago, and Jim impressed me from the first minute I met him. His energy and spirit is amazing. The people that Jim has surrounded himself with and built the team have been with him for so long that it says something about your character when people want to continue to work for you. And there's something about Jim that also motivates us to want to work harder, work longer, and continue to grow and make him proud.
An example of Jim Danella caring about the employees is visiting the job sites and talking to them. Not just going to the job site and watching and looking, but talking to them, taking interest in what they're doing, make sure everything that they need to do the job safely, professionally, productively is provided to them. And I've heard from the employees over the years who remember talking to Jim Danella once, twice, or maybe even more, but remembering that interaction, which was always positive.
Around 2000, when the internet bubble came in, there was a lot of work for the communication side. Danella did it. Then Danella expanded to different places and different type of work. And also, Danella started the storm work, which we're really proud of that. And not only can we have the work, it also we can serve the communities when they have the tough times.
So we've always changed with the times, and whatever opportunity was there, we didn't get stale. So we didn't stay in that one little piece that if you're not diverse enough, then you're in trouble. We've opened up new locations. We've grown the business. If one piece of the business went away or was not successful, we were looking for the next opportunity, the next door to open.
You know, we have a saying that, you know, we make life go. And when you look at that, that's because we do rail work. We keep the rails moving. We do water work. We get clean, fresh water to your homes. We do electric work. Storm rolls through. We're the first guys and girls out there. They're working in the rain, they're working in the snow to make sure that your hospitals are back on, your heaters are back on, your gas lines that might be 100 years old. We're out there digging to make sure that it's a safe environment.
I started when I was 14 years old in 2002, and I started full-time in 2005, and I've been here since. I started as a laborer and have worked my way up to operations manager. It's something that makes me very proud to be considered a traveling warrior. It's something that changes us dramatically from any other division. The amount we travel, and as a lot of us say, we haven't unpacked our suitcases in 15 plus years. We travel wherever the work is, wherever the project is.
These successes along the way happened because Jim connected with his team every single day and gave them the resources they needed to thrive. He taught them to make an honest buck. More than anything, he showed them that they were better together. This dedication to service, wherever it was called for, was always modeled by Jim himself, who never hesitated to jump into all facets of his business.
1972, when they had the flood up in Pottstown, we were there and we had to save a building for the telephone company. In some places we were up to our chest in water. It was tough to get the materials we needed because there was a little bridge. So they would dump the materials we needed on the other side of the bridge, and we use a backhoe, go over and haul it back to where we needed it. I couldn't tell you how many sandbags we made up that night, but we saved the building. Jim, he got right in and helped. He didn't worry about getting his clothes dirty. He didn't worry about anything, but he got in and helped with just about anything he could do.
Jim never forgot that experience. So when the opportunity came to show up in the midst of natural disasters, he wanted Danella companies to be on the front lines.
My name is Francis Renner. My role at Danella is operations manager for the storm restoration team. So when we pull up on a job site and the people have been out of power for a long time, it's almost like the second coming. But we have to produce for them also. So we instruct our manpower, and most of these guys do it anyway, to be kind and courteous, be sensitive to the situation that they're in. Whether it's the winter time when they have no heat because of no electricity, or it's the summertime when they have no air conditioning, or they have no TV. Multiple storms I have the guys or myself go out and get gasoline for the people, go out and get ice for the people. I want them to see that when we pull in, it's like the cavalry pulling in. That's the most important thing, that when we come in, everything is done the right way in the most professional manner. And when we leave, we've left an impression that they say, wow, I want to work for that company. I want to be a part of that organization. Danella's the number one team out there. That's what we strive for every day.
Jim's very proud of his name and likes to see his vehicles and his equipment and looking good, keeping everything updated, making sure everybody's hard hat and vest still looks good, making sure it's a company that not only he's proud of, but you're proud of to work for.
Pride in everything we do, it's more than just a slogan. It's more than that. It's our ability to go out and work for our customers. It's our ability to do our jobs to the best of our ability. It's when we finish that job, it encompasses our workmanship, our quality. When I look at that, and it's not only that as much as the customer can see it, he can see what kind of work we do for him. And I think it stands the test of time. I mean, I like to point, I like to drive by, I like to see what we've built. I like pointing it out to people. Pride in all we do is much deeper than just being prideful of who we are and what we do. It goes much deeper.
When some corporations grow, the CEO grows distance from its frontline workers. Not so with Jim Danella. His relationships strengthened through the years. Every day he inspired each employee to work to their highest potential, maintaining quality, competitiveness, and energy on the job.
Anybody can get equipment, but it's finding the good, loyal people. And what do I always say? A construction company is a bunch of used equipment and its people. We're very fortunate that all through the years we've had a lot of dedicated people working for Danella. It was a really team effort. I have to be the luckiest guy in the world when it comes to that.
Nobody in the company is allowed to say no. That's what I was told. No one says no to a customer. We don't say no. We are the can-do company, as I said.
Now, the words that I think of when I think about Jim Danella, and it's a little cliche, but I love to quote Harry Truman. People don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And I think that sums up Jim, because he does. He cares about the people. He cares about the business. He cares about their families. And it's hard for a business to be in business for 5 years anymore, much less 50. And I think that's the one main reason why he's still in business and continuing to grow.
Family and Danella are one and the same. The one that comes right to mind, and it's somebody I think of every day, is Uncle Renato. Jim's uncle. Jim needed help with basically what Earl does, handing out shop equipment and keeping track of what's going in and out, the tools and all that. He was also a person that if you had a problem or even a personal problem, he would sit and listen to you and give you advice. And it's just a wonderful guy.
More like a family type company. Where everybody, can say what they mean what they say. We can reach out to Jim at any time and talk to him and pitch our ideas. Ultimately, he usually comes back and the market, you know the business down there. It's your decision. So it gives again that self-ownership. And that's what makes people stick around.
We actually had fun at what we did, what we worked. It's like a whistle while you work. Well, we did it. We had fun at it. And it's not just a cliche. We actually lived it.
Danella cares for its employees and their families during triumphs and hardship. And in the spirit of Jim's father, who gave him the help he needed when he started his business, Jim Danella recognizes the power of giving. That trait from Jim has turned into a contagious philanthropic culture in the company. It gives back to the community through transformative programs like the Jefferson Medical Scholarship Opportunity and the Christmas Project.
For Webster Elementary, the children write a letter to Santa Claus. We go out and we buy what they wrote a letter to. And it's very touching the day we go down to the school and take everything. We have so many of the school staff and administrators come up to us and just personally thank us and tell us that this is the only Christmas these children receive. This is the best day out of the year. And the school staff is very dedicated. LaSalle Academy, likewise. They're just so grateful for everything we do, everything we put on for them, and just absolutely everything. We assist them with their school supplies at the beginning of the year, Christmas, and it's very heartwarming.
I'm Mary Jo Danella. I'm married to Jim Danella. Jim wants to give back some of, what he has, worked so hard for. And he does that through whether it be LaSalle Academy or the Webster School. He does the Christmas events for them. And, now he's involved with Jefferson medical students. And he just feels like, medicine right now, it's so important, even, more so now than ever with what's happening in this world. So he really wants to help these young people.
Jim has taken care of people that have been going through cancer treatment, and just no questions asked. Their pay is continued and so forth, and they're not expected to come back to work until they're on their feet and feeling good again. That certainly develops a loyalty in people.
Just the other day, after this pandemic had started, I hadn't seen him for a while. And I happened to be walking through the hallway when he came in, and he greeted me. And he said, "Cheryl, I thought of you this morning, and I wondered how you were doing. Are you doing okay? Are you getting through this all right?" And it was just very nice of him to even be concerned and to tell me that. He said, "I thought of you first thing this morning, and I wanted to make sure you were okay." I said, "I'm fine, thank you very much."
I guess the biggest thing that comes to mind with how I think of Jim as a family is, and I don't want to get emotional, but the one thing Jim did for me, years ago, my fiance had cancer. Couldn't work as much as he had. And Jim's thing was, "I'm going to keep your insurance going, even though you can't work as often, because right now you need to fight that battle and not worry about being insured." I'm sorry, but I've never forgotten that, and I never will forget that as long as I live. I don't know many people that would do that for an employee. I don't.
Well, that was one story. I was diagnosed with a tumor, and I told my boss at that time that I may not be in, I didn't know what was going to happen, if it was malignant or not, so I had to go for some tests, and Jim made it a point of coming up to where I was working and assured me that whatever it is, he was going to take care of the family. And it was just very nice of him to even come. And, I was just an employee. And he made it a point of coming up there and telling me that he would take care of things. So that's about the most important thing.
From humble beginnings, Jim Danella gave everything he had to build a company that cares, a company that transforms, a company that makes a lasting impact for every community that it serves.
I wonder a lot how one person, one company could have done this. And then when I step back and I think of the things that Mr. Danella has told us, all of us, it's always simple. He says, "Joe, I'm just a ditch digger, kid from Conshohocken." And what he means by that is think simple. But when you think simple, perfect the simple. Don't get too crazy. Don't get overwhelmed. Think of the things that really matter and do them well. And he always brings you back to center in that way.
Well, it comes from the top. I know Jim personally, and he's always been generous. I'm talking just with his heart and his kindness. I went through stuff with my family with personal stuff with parents and stuff, and as they got older, and the company was always there for me and helped me along with those issues and stood by me the whole time that I needed to get through it. And so it starts at the top, and everybody displays it right on down. Once you start it from the top, it just trickles down. Everybody gets into that mode of being generous and being a good person.
People say, "Oh, you do a great job." I gotta say, it's a lot easier to do your job when you have an owner like Jim Danella. And that's sincerely, I really mean that. When people want to pat you on the back for doing a good job, I couldn't do my job unless I had an owner like Jim. He makes my job possible, makes my job easier.
Look around. He just keeps making it nicer and nicer and a better environment to work in. And, you know, so the pride, it hasn't stopped. The pride that he has, it just keeps going on and on. You could see it just by looking around.
What does 50 years mean to Jim? I think it's just maybe something that in the beginning he wondered if he would ever get to, you know, when he was struggling to, you know, take over a business and, you know, start this business on his own. I'm sure he, there were days he wondered if he'd get through the year, let alone 50 years. So I think it's just, he's proud of what he's accomplished and wants to share that moment with everyone around him. He doesn't want it just to be his moment. It's everyone's moment that has worked for him through all these years.
From his first day sweeping the floor at his father's business, continuing to this day, Jim Danella wakes every morning to challenge himself and all of us to be one step better than yesterday. With pride in everything we do, Danella Companies is creating a lasting legacy for decades to come.